and welcome to our third Sustainability Leadership Program, where we focus on a different aspect of sustainability leadership every other month. And today we're going to take you to the Pacific shores over there at Big Sur with our friends at Post Ranch Inn, and also to the Tuscan countryside of Borgo PIGNANO in Tuscany, near Volterra. We've got two great speakers who are going to talk about nature and hotels in partnership. And I want to make a special welcome to all of our travel advisor partners who are joining us for the first time. Welcome. We will be sending you after this a recording of two other programs that we ran recently on ocean reef protection and wildlife management, just so you can get into the swing of what we're doing within Beyond Green in our sustainability leadership series. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Mike Higgins, Vice President of Operation of Post Ranch Inn, to take us through their presentation before Luciano comes on after him. Over to you, Mike.
Thank you so much, Martin. We really appreciate all that your Beyond Green team is doing to support and promote and celebrate sustainable travel. So it's great to be partnering with everyone. And greetings from Post Ranch Inn in Big Sur, California. It's a gorgeous morning here. As Martin said, I'm Mike Higgins, Vice President of Post Ranch, as well as Passport Resorts. And I've been involved with the property really since inception, since we opened in '92. This past Saturday, we just celebrated Earth Day in our Chef's Garden, and we also celebrated our 31st anniversary. And it was really nice to gather with our staff and our neighbors and our guests after a really long and wet winter in Big Sur. I'm proud to share our story with everyone today because the intersection of hotels and nature is a crossroads where Post Ranch and our staff have literally lived and hosted and worked and served and thrived as a sustainable luxury resort since day one. Post Ranch is a 100-acre property. We're perched 1,200 feet above the Pacific with the Santa Lucia Mountains as our backdrop on the stunning stretch of California coast. And we really believe it's never been more important to be responsible stewards in hospitality and assure that our guests are aware of those efforts. So thank you very much for providing us this platform today. We're going to start with a little video of the ranch as the beauty speaks for itself. So we'll roll that now. Just 1 minute, please.
That's weird.
Slide your cursor down.
Can you hear it?
No. We have a little sound background that's not playing, but beautiful shots of our restaurant and the sea. Some of our beautiful guest rooms there. And that's our lovely ranch as an overview. We're going to now go to talk a little about the very beginnings of Post Ranch with the Post family who settled in Big Sur in the 1860s. They homesteaded the land, and they started as ranchers and farmers. And they were the first postmasters in Big Sur. When power finally came to Big Sur in the 1950s, they started their first humble hospitality offerings with Rancho Sierra Mar Roadhouse, where they offered a few little cabins and meals, and they did backcountry excursions for hunting, fishing, and camping. And then we fast forward to the fourth generation in the 1990s, where Bill and Lucy Post, pictured here, and Bill Post, pictured on his tractor, started Post Ranch with our managing owner, Mike Freed. And when we opened, Billy was really a country gentleman who managed the property his whole life and maintained just like his forefathers. So he graded all our roads with his tractor, and he was on site every day Billy and Lucy really were and still are the heart and soul of Post Ranch. And we're still owned by the same group 31 years later, which we're very proud of as well. So as you can see, Post Ranch has always been immersed in nature. And we strive every day in every state to kind of weave that Post family story, the spirit of Big Sur, into the fabric of each guest stay. We're going to take a little tour around the ranch and talk about those intersections again of hospitality and nature. And of course, there's a strong sustainability arm in there as well, or another intersection. So starting with our approach to organic architecture, this is a photo of our earth shelters that you see. Just see the building just a very little bit. In the background is our Sierra Mar restaurant. And these are a great example of passive solar architecture, where the earth keeps the buildings warmer in the winter and cooler in the summer. And in the interiors, just beautiful laid out, you'll see the same repeating materials over and over again, where glass meets stone meets wood meets metal. And they'll just repeat over and over around the ranch. Really low impact architecture, beautiful views, 1,200 feet above the ocean. And a great way to end the day is out on your private hot tub on the deck. These are our tree houses. Again, very environmentally considerate and sustainably considered when we were building them and designing them in the early 1990s. Our architect, Mickey Muning, had the approach of that to be successful to build in nature, he really looked at these buildings as more as kind of sculptures than buildings. And he really sited them by himself. He camped on the land and made sure he had the best view sheds. These are perched 9 feet above the ground to protect the root systems of the redwoods and the coastal oaks that are around them. And they also increase privacy up there and views. So we love the tree houses. Here's a quick tree house interior. Again, wood, metal, glass, no stone here, but the whole rest of the room in the bathroom is stone. And then we're leading into the 100 acres of the ranch. We have over 2 miles of on-property trails, and this kind of leads into our trail management and forest management as well. But we really encourage our guests to get outside, whether they're doing a nice hike and walk around property themselves, or we're guiding those tours, or we're doing forest meditation or chef garden tours. We're really kind of trying to connect our guests with the natural environment. When we have, so for forest management, we have lots of down limbs and trees that will mulch right on property, put them right back onto the trails for the guests so they can wayfind. And for bigger pieces of down trees, we'll take these. This is a beautiful redwood. This is for scale, this is about 6 foot tall. And we'll mill them down on property and reuse them right on property. In this example is a beautiful bench right overlooking the ocean, a few steps down from one of our coast houses. Then leading back around into the land, this about 95% of our plants are all native, and we haven't really planted anything that's not sustainable or drought resistant, but we do have some mitigation efforts. In this case, this is a huge invader on the California coast. It's called Genesta, or French broom, which propagates for 9 years in the ground. So when we're pulling this stuff this spring, we're trying to avoid it growing 9 years later. So this has been an ongoing management for the last 30 years. We also do a lot of fire mowing around our structures. We're, as those of you probably are aware, lots of fire danger in California. So we do a lot of clearing. This photo is taken just the other day, actually, right from our Sierra Mar restaurant, where our team is doing a fire clearance. And these fire mows usually happen in June at the first one, but we're doing it in April because of how much water we got this year with the rain. So then we also have a habitat conservation plan that we entered into with Fish and Wildlife and the California Coastal Commission, where we have 2 endangered species who live on property, both the red-legged frog and the Smith blue butterfly. The red-legged frog inhabits our pond, that fifth generation Becky Post built for us and built for her family in the 1970s. But we do mitigation. These are all things that really have nothing to do with hospitality or ADR or heads in beds, but it's the right thing to do as stewards, and we love doing it. We love protecting this land. So we remove the tules that you see on the right-hand side to create a great aquatic habitat for the red-legged frog. There's also invader species in there, such as bullfrogs and Louisiana crayfish were introduced at one point, where we eradicate them in a bunch of different measures, all of with the oversight of biologists that we're working with. Next slide, please. Stand by for just a second. So our other endangered species is Smith blue butterfly. I'm sorry, we're just having a little glitch here getting to our next slide. And the Smith blue butterfly, it comes down the coast. They migrate every year, and they have habitat that we protect as well. And they live on the coastal buckwheat. Okay. So we're coming up to our Smith blue butterfly here in a second. There he is. So they live on coastal buckwheat, and this is a plant that really does live on the hillside. So it's a really steep terrain. So we keep over 300 of these plants in an adult position. So we protect them while they're growing, so the butterfly has their proper habitat. And that's all led by biologists as well. And again, nothing to do with hospitality, but everything to do with responsible stewardship. Jen, please. So let's talk about who else we share the ranch with. This great guy is a California bobcat, and he's a great intersection of nature and hotel, because this is one of our sculptures that we have. And right in the window of that big piece of granite, you're looking at the Ventana double cones, which is kind of sacred ground to the Native Americans who used to habitat the land as well. Here's a beautiful buck who likes to come by our post house, our family homestead, which is now our most luxurious 1-bedroom, 1-bath unit. And he'll dine every 6 o'clock every day out there with a couple of his buddies. Pretty nice dining room for him. California condors fly by right at about 1,200 feet past the restaurant, provide just an amazing show for our guests at breakfast and lunch pretty often. You'll see the number 70 tag underneath his arm there. They're protected just in the backcountry up in the Santa Lucia Mountains by the Ventana Wilderness Society. And we support those along with our guests by a donation, each guest, each room night, that we support a lot of nonprofits in Big Sur, including the Volunteer Fire Department, who are housed on property. EMTs are there for 24/7 emergency response in Big Sur, as we're 26 miles from the closest hospital and really services in Carmel and Monterey. And we do lots of arts and education support as well. This is a beautiful hawk taking advantage of a perch on top of Sierra Mar Restaurant. Speaking of Sierra Mar Restaurant, really one of the centers of our dining experience, well, our hospitality experience, and provides 3 meals a day, 365 days a year. And our chefs are committed to sourcing incredibly locally. We started with a 400-mile radius, and we're down to about 200 right now. We have a 1-acre chef garden on property that's expanding as well. And our chefs are able to really pick and choose what they want our master gardener, Chris Ulmer, to grow, because we really are adjacent to the Salinas Valley, which is the fruit basket of America, or the vegetable basket of America. So we can source locally at Salinas Valley, and we can grow some great row crops in the garden. All our seafood is sourced following Monterey Bay Aquarium Seafood Watch sustainable program. And we'll take the vegetables, mix them with our proteins that we find sourced locally. And next, please. Then that comes off the plate. We compost on property, create great soils that go back to the farm, back into the row crops, back to your plate, and enjoy a Sierra Mar restaurant. We also source abalone from Monterey, is right up the road as well, from Great Monterey Abalone Farm, very sustainable business also, great supporters of those folks. And getting to the sustainability around the ranch, we have a 990 panel photovoltaic solar system, which provides about 30% of all our power for the ranch. And at peak production, it's about 60% in the warmth of the day. When we're not using that, we're sourcing 100% traceable electric power from our local power provider. And we're looking to expand the solar system in the next few years. All the water on property is 100% sustainable and sourced on property from deep wells that we source, treat, and distribute not only to our guests, but to our staff. We have staff who live on property, about 42 staff housing units, and that also keeps a lot more cars off the road and a lot of carbon out of the air. So the beautiful bottles on the left are in your complimentary mini bar, and the SIG bottles on the right we offer for guests to take with them, hike around, and hopefully you're seeing them all over the planet as well as reusable resources. Here's a great example of our staff housing units. This is an addition. These are in 2016 to our original 20 buildings that completed out the 42. And these are 516 square foot studio apartments that the staff just love. And it's great to have them on property. And they really appreciate the subsidized housing that's really hard in California. So in closing, a few things in closing. One is, as we honored the Post family in the beginning, of course, we wouldn't be anywhere without our staff. So we're so grateful for our team and our staff. And every day, every day, they're doing all they can to share the spirit of Big Sur with our guests and make sure our guests understand all our sustainability and hospitality offerings that we're giving. And our guests really want to know who our staff are. You know, we're everybody. We're Native Pacific Islanders, we're Irishmen, we're Latinos, we're men, women, and we're all unitedly committed to providing a great experience for our guests. And we're passionate about our areas of expertise in hospitality. And really in closing, I want to say that this kind of, we're always in this juxtaposition or friction of both living with and supporting and protecting the environment and being at the mercy of Mother Nature. So with that, it's really important to take a minute and breathe, look at the condors, look at the sunsets. It reminds me of sunset, that every sunset is different. You never know what tomorrow is going to bring. The nights are magical. So take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of your community. And thank you for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Mike, thank you so much. That was amazing. One thing I forgot to mention at the beginning was if you have any questions for Mike or Luciano, if you could drop them into the chat, we'd certainly take questions at the end. So if you could do that, that'd be great. So now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our second speaker. I've known Luciano Lusardi for about 15 years now, I think, Luciano, and it's a delight to have you with us to take you through BORCO PIGNANO and how they've blended the property that was rebuilt several years ago now into its hospitality focus in alongside its natural setting. So Luciano, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Let me see if it works. Can you see that? Yes.
Yes.
Mike, excellent presentation. I would say that we have a lot in common between the Post-Inn Ranch and BORCO PIGNANO, with except I took a note, slender stilts, we don't have that, and no the Californian condo. That is not available in BORCO PIGNANO. So what makes BORCO PIGNANO the estate precious is the beauty of the nature, of course, which is the theme of the day. Its position, the one who have visited would appreciate the position on a hilltop with breathtaking views. And especially when I visited, I spotted immediately the potential to imagine an high-level hospitality at the service of agriculture, biodiversity, and sustainability, and not the other way around, as common after in our industry. Over the year, Borgo Pignano has become a proudly and authentic, sought-after destination for those who want to experience a taste of the Tuscan lifestyle, which in our case includes views of forest and fields, and an eco-ethos that run as deep as the 18th century roots. As well, Borgo Pignano has a story to tell. We welcome guests from a mixture of backgrounds, but all are united by a common passion, which is the theme of today, the nature. And I would add, in the case of Borgo Pignano as well, art, culture, and gastronomy. So this is the agenda of the day, very brief on the origins of Borgo Pignano, what's today, living with nature, eco-sustainability practices, agriculture, which is very much core in our business in Pignano, farm to table, the hospitality in partnership with nature, and takeaways. I picked up a note, and I quote Mike before. This presentation has not very much to do with ADR, GOP, profit, and you won't see much about beautiful rooms or fancy restaurant. It's about nature, sustainability, biodiversity, and here we go. So the origins as well, in the case of Borgo Pignano, we have a lot of history behind us. The first historical news that we are aware of the ancient fortified village of Pignano, not Borgo Pignano, dates the distant 12th centuries. So in this time, there was no trace of the manor house. We have a manor house, and all the village was organized around a religious complex, as it happened in those times. In our case, characterized by a Romanesque parish church, which is dedicated to San Bartolomeo. So in the 19th century, Pignano returned to play an important role. Before it was a garrison. And finally, in the end of the previous century, it became an important agricultural center. So, Borgo Pignano today, after a long period of oblivions, the current owner, Mike Morris, who lives in San Francisco, after 20 years of uninterrupted improvement, Borgo Pignano can present itself in our eyes, I believe, in the moment of maximum splendor, which hasn't happened since the 19th century, I would guess. And it tells about the intervention which, of those 20 years of restoration, all interventions were conducted according to a criteria of conservative restoration. Everything we do in Pignano, safeguarding the typical local architecture typologies, using traditional construction technique, and often using as much as possible recycled material. In this case, this picture shows the infinity pool of Pignano, which is carved in a medieval limestone quarry, actually, which gave a lot of stone to the walls of the medieval town of Volterra, actually. The slides, perhaps you can spot our focus on sustainability. This is the main villa, the 17th century villa. All buildings, like the main villa, has been restored and decorating using environmental friendly material, locally sourced stone, organic plaster, and eco paints. In this other slide, on the left, you see the priest house called La Canonica, and next to the main villa, which contains exceptional original features such as medieval stonework, archways, vaulted ceiling, columns, terracotta floors, and restored medieval frescoes, which dates back from the 13th century. This painting tells about the evidence of the owner interest of art. In fact, it's a painting. Some of the works that decorate all public areas and bedroom are by well-known modern and contemporary British artists, while many, like this one, have been made during residencies by students of the alumni of the Royal Drawing School of London, established by King Charles III. We always host them every year. Living with nature. Basically, you can summarize our philosophy in healthy lifestyle, eco-sustainability, and certified organic farming. BORCO PIGNANO is foremost an organic farm which provides a high proportion of the ingredients which are used by our kitchen in our toiletries. Everything starts from homegrown or locally sourced raw material. In the bakery, for instance, bread are produced with sourdough, while pastry and fresh pasta comes from a fine selection of wheat flours cultivated on the estate. BORCO PIGNANO sustainable infrastructure is the backbone of our activities, and I show you some of these. This picture shows our agricultural center, which is very much eco-sustainable, and those are some of the pillars of our eco-sustainable practices. For instance, the property is 60% self-sufficient when it comes to produce. The rest of the 40% comes from the territory. In addition, 100% of heating and hot water is now produced in-house using renewable energies, with a combination of wood chip fire boilers, which are fed by timbers that we harvest in our 700 organic acres estate, as well as solar panels. While heating is fueled by solar panel and chip fire boilers, the gardens are fed with filtered harvested rainwater, and the natural and man-made lakes supply irrigation for our gardens and the farm. Feed to depuration at BORCO PIGNANO, there are 2 large phytoremediation water plants which are aimed at water conservation. Basically, they employ the potential of plant roots to absorb nutrients from wastewater, which serves to irrigate in our case. So, and the hotel commitment to eco-sustainability includes as well a state-of-art recycling, I guess, like many, which differentiate waste prior to collection. We are maximizing all the effort to reduce plastic, reduce waste, and use non-toxic cleaning products or non-toxic paint. We have installed charging points for electric vehicles in our parking, and all our villas, they have an e-charging point. The mobility in the estate is provided totally by electric vehicles. We started recently, I see my friend Francesco Ascani, who is the Director of Operation of BORCO PIGNANO, is on screen actually. He started project of carbon offsetting. We have this project is basically aimed at quantifying the CO2 emissions on the company, outlining a strategy to reduce them, and offsetting the non-reducible emission. The first step has been recently concluded with the objective to identify, quantify the source of emission of BORCO PIGNANO, which in our case were found to be low, mainly to the amount of self-generating energy. I told you before about 100% hot water or heating produced with renewable energy. And we are now ready to start the second phase relative to the decarbonization strategy. Educating guests on sustainable practice is very much important for us, and we are adopting this as an important aspect of our mission. Guests are encouraged to visit the organic vegetable garden or see how fruit and vegetable are grown, among the other involvement than the guest on the farm. So we promote unhealthy lifestyles, I told you before, eco-sustainability and certified organic farming. Let's now focus briefly on this latter one, that for us, as I told you before, it's of pivotal importance. So at Borgo Pignano, natural and sustainable agricultural growing methods improve the structure of the soil, increase the fertility of the farm, orchard, olive grove, vineyard, and vegetable gardens. So this type of no-harm farming has been very much popular in Tuscany for many generations and promotes a self-supporting ecosystem. So you see that from the number that we have a rather serious production of cereal, which basically in our case includes a preference of heritage variety native to Tuscany. We grow wheat, spelt, barley, field bean, and amongst other, and a fine organic seed, which are very much sought after. And with those, we have as well a mill on premise. We get the flour, and then our cooks prepare pasta and for our guests. The veg garden, this 2-hectare vegetable garden, makes that on a daily basis, fresh produce is picked every day and served in the hotels to restaurant. In our case, we have one more formal, the Villa Pignano, and one more casual, al fresco. And we have the 2 hectares herb and flowers garden, which gives ingredients for amenities, soaps, and oils. And guests are invited to partake in workshop conducted by our on-site herbalist. This is our soap. This is our olive oil. And for what actually it's concern farm to table, as I told you, everything starts from homegrown or locally sourced raw material. We are careful to harvest vegetable and fruit at their peaks. As I told you before, breads are produced with sourdough. Pastry and fresh pasta comes from a selection of our ancient wheat flours from grain grown in the company. We have free-range pigs, hens, which provide eggs, and our bees provide the honey. Our olive groves and the vineyard helps to generate oil and wine. So the creative approach to food can be enjoyed in our 2 restaurants. And in 2022, our formal Villa Pignano restaurant has been awarded a Green Star Michelin. Michelin Green Star highlights the restaurant in the forefront of the industry when it comes to their sustainable practices. So they hold themselves accountable for both ethical and environmental standards and work with sustainable producers and suppliers that avoid waste and even remove plastic and other non-recycled material from their supply chain. Borgo Pignano, it's one of the very few Michelin Green Star that present in Italy, and obviously we are very much proud of. So talking about partnership with nature, we need to talk as well about our villas, which are surrounded by aromatic gardens, orchards, and fields. And those are results of 20 years of restoration. And this is the results, as a picture, as I heard before, speaks better than an image, better than 1,000 words. This is Villa Vlafonte, one of our villas. You can appreciate that it should really exemplify a good match of partnership between hospitality with nature. Some guests talking about nature enjoy infinity pools, so up in the sun, goes horseback riding or cycle around the estate, or visit those two medieval gems which are very close to Borgo Pignano, which are San Gimignano and Volterra. And coming a little bit more into deep about hospitality in partnership with nature, talking about the bathroom amenities from herbs grown on the properties, Borgo Pignano, as I told you, is a beautiful herb and flower garden which provide natural organic ingredients for the hotel amenity. So the soap, the shower gel, and shampoos are produced with our herbs and flower collected in the herb garden, such as the spa makes ample use for their treatments and well-being therapies of those products. And those therapies have been created using organic ingredients grown on the estate. For instance, we have anti-aging creams with helichrysum and detoxifying tonics with calendula and morphed on offer in our spa. All the staff is in contact with nature, but we have some staff which is who is more in contact than other with nature. They mean the farmers, greengrocer, beekeeper, cellarmen, equestrian instructors, herbalists. And we have a number of experiences related to nature. As you can read, they are not all, but some: horse riding and picnic, trekking on an estate, guided tour of the Borgo Pignano farm, harvest and wine tasting in the cellar of the estate, herbalist laboratory, honey making tutorials. In this slide, you can see on the left, Barbara, our horse riding instructor, taking a guest to explore the Tuscan hills in the Borgo Pignano estate. And amongst the many horseback riding activities that we carry out, we offer a picnic in a shaded wooden area where guests can enjoy an hour of relaxation while savoring typical Tuscan cuisine. Mountain bikes and e-bikes are available for guest use. And in our herb laboratory, as I told you before, we have 2 trained herbalists on site. We explain to guests how to use herbs and flowers and experience the traditional methods on how natural ingredients are used with our products and in the cuisine. The estate, woodland and fields with its protected flora and fauna, which is in our case ideal for walking tours, and guests can see a lot of animal typical of that region: partridges, pheasant, ducks, crane, storks, kestrel, osprey can all be spotted actually. And closer to the villa, swift and swallow, there are plenty, and owls and doves can often be as well heard. Naturally in Tuscany, we don't miss wild boars, roe deer, air badgers and foxes and porcupines, and we have to watch and patrol our hens very, very carefully. And basically, this slide serves you to tell that we help our guests with map trails, and on request, we accompany guests on natural walks and trails. We have a vineyard. Since a few years, we produce an excellent Vermentino white wine, an excellent Ciliegiolo rosé and red. By the way, there is a bottle here, and from this year as well, a delicious spumante is on offer, made with our grapes harvested on site, actually. So guests can discover the extraordinary region of Tuscany that produce exceptional wine, and wine tasting takes place in the historic cellar of Pignano, which dates back the 17th century. On the right, you see our beekeeper. So LTBs are vital for the well-being of Borgo Pignano. We tend in the estate a broad section of flowers and plant that attracts and sustain bees. And the bees give rise to a very fine millefiori flower honey, and most important, help in our case with biodiversity, with the pollination of vegetable and fruit trees. And guests are invited to learn about beekeeping and the traditional method of extracting honey and bee wax while learning a little bit about the life of bees, drones, worker bees, and bees. So proudly, we have become aware that Borgo Pignano is increasing popularity among international visits, and that has certainly created a positive spin-off to the local economy, which is very important for us. I have been asked by Martin and by Kyla to share with you a few takeaways very quickly. Those are our takeaways. Sustainability enhance the luxury guest experience everywhere. So not just in resort or rural location, which is our case or the case of Mike before, but these practices are now more and more being emulated or allowed by city center hotel. Sustainability practices are expanding or should expand across the entire luxury hotel sector. Our own sustainable city center property, Borgo Pignano Florence, will open in September 2024 and will be set in the largest ground of any hotel within the city radius, which are 6 hectares of land, opening in 2024. Another takeaway is communicate our importance to communicate our sustainable and eco-friendly practices to guests. So the way to convey our identity is through the experiences. As you have seen before, we certainly make wide use of that. Experience should be linked to the land and to the territory, and those experiences will enrich and leave guests with unforgettable memories, which they will share with their friends, word of mouth and social media, which is no harm for any of us, of course. And lastly, we all should contribute to help protect the natural environment and support biodiversity conservation. So we should increase effort to protect flora and fauna and to make sure that all this magic lasts for a while or for as long as possible. In our case, and I mentioned before, LTBs are vital to the well-being of the biodiversity, and as bee colony around the world collapse, we have taken a lot of pain to do everything possible to sustain them, and we have in Borgo Pignano approximately 50 beehives that produce this honey. With that, and I've seen that Mike has also shown you as a closing picture a fantastic, dramatic sunset. We would like to do the same, and thank you for listening, and looking forward to welcome you all in Tuscany, in Borgo Pignano.
Thank you, Luciano. Thank you, Mike. This is an opportunity now for any of you on the call to ask any questions. Just to kick it off, I'd like to perhaps ask for Luciano and Mike's feedback on something we heard on our roadshow last week here in America, in the Northwest and the East Coast, where advisors were saying that people don't ask for sustainability. And my response to that was, well, sustainability is nature, community, and culture, which we know clients want. So how do we help the advisors sell our product when it's sustainable in the sense of the definition of sustainability that we all know of nature, community, and culture, but which I think is a different way to present it. So what are your thoughts on that, Mike? And perhaps Luciano, you could chime in afterwards.
Thank you, Martin. And Great job, Luciano, as well. We are finding guests who are gravitating towards the outdoors, especially post-COVID, right? Where we felt like one of our kind of new great things in our tool bag was the open space and the land. So people are definitely leaning towards open space, when with that comes sustainability, with that comes rural properties, and with that comes all those responsibilities that Luciano and I just talked about with our properties. So our best thing to do for getting that word out is making sure that our travel agents and all our salespeople are aware, and definitely make sure that our guests, when they're on property, have the experience and understand what we're doing in our gardens, what we're doing with our water, what we're doing with our land, to make sure they share it with their families. So getting all the way back to word of mouth is probably our best way. Come experience, feel it, live it, breathe it. Love to have you see it at Post Ranch firsthand, please.
I think, actually, sustainability, a true, passionate, real, not marketing, there should be a bit of marketing in everything, but you understand what I mean. It makes our life so much easier in order to increase awareness. In a world that every day, we hear bad news, warming, emissions, pollutions, and so forth, actually. So a real effort, a real product, investments on investing on sustainability, it will, not only fulfill our soul, it will as well help us to make unhealthy results, and to help us to continue to invest in sustainability, because it will be increasingly important.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I think that point about investment is key, because from my discussions with all of our members, a lot of our members are in this business to be in sustainable practices. The hospitality piece comes second. So it's almost we're funding our sustainability efforts by our hospitality operations. And I think that's a remarkable thing that we are doing, which helps us stand out somewhat. And it's certainly not a current marketing fad just to be part to green, like we're seeing a lot of greenwashing going on. And that's the essence of Beyond. I think that our brand conveys is that we are true leaders in developing this system of sustainability that breeds from the basic essence of the nature that we all love, and the land on which we build our properties. So thank you both very much. If there's no other questions, I think I'll give you 10 minutes back of your day. Thank you again, Mike. Oh, quick question just came in from Hans. Thank you, Hans. Don't have electricity at my house, running out of battery, will disconnect, catching up with you. Thanks for that note, Hans. Good to know. Thank you. So it wasn't really a question, it was more of a comment, but thank you very much, Hans. Great to know that you were on the call. Thank you again, Luciano. Thank you, Mike. Great presentations. And please join us again in a couple of months' time when we'll have another call, and you'll be hearing about that from us in the very near future. But thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy your day, and thank you for your support of Beyond Green. Bye-bye.
Thanks all.